Today is Thursday, November 10th. Tomorrow is Veterans Day, yet another holiday of nonsense. Aren't they all, though? Aren't they all? Okay, little hurricane action. Nicole, Sally, Nancy, Karen, maybe it's her name. I don't think so. Finally getting some rain. Threw some seed out, some grass seed out all over the place at Trog Farms. Hopefully get something to grow, get some cover crop going, something to hold down the damn erosion on my big hill. All right, bone broth. Sipping some bone broth. I haven't had any real caffeine in like 3 days. I started to get into some like natural highs. Woo! It's 10 to 5. Okay, I have recently returned from a most relaxing stay at my parents' place, back where I grew up, in the home I grew up, from 6 to 18 before I left the city. And it was remarkable colors, some green from late summer, some reds and yellows from fall, and then, the day before I left, some white snow of winter, a little bit early. Got to sit in the sauna, hang out, chat with the folks, and they are on their own little journey of awakening and activating. I give them a lot of credit for what they've uncovered thus far and what they've been willing to look into. And I got to go off on a couple long spiels. Too bad they weren't recorded. Even got my parents to watch a little bit of Mark Passio, which is remarkable. Again, he is one of the greats of our modern day, who's willing and able to take the time and effort to break it down, all of the occult people. But my mother asks a very, very good question, and I'm paraphrasing here. But she has something to the effect of, you're going through the information. How do you know what's right? How do you know what is true? How can you discern the wheat from the chaff? You know, the good stuff from the bullshit. And honestly, it's not easy. But let us discuss a bit of the truth. You know, our favorite topic here: truth, freedom, love. Quite the trinity of power there. There's a little bit of backstory context to that. One of my sisters and her husband, they are very much on the opposite side of the spectrum in terms of everything that's going on. Very dug in and dogmatic, as they are both highly papered in terms of university accreditation, their education background, various types of engineering. And my parents have tried to posit some of information, not even as extreme as what I'm into by any means, to them, and it is an emotional debacle. But they still want to try to help them understand for their sake and the sake of their grandkids. So when my mother's asking, how do you know it's true? She's also asking, how can you present something? How can you discern what the bad guys, top leading experts have to say, and the good guys, right? How can you fetter that all out? All right, well, let's take a page out of Master Passio's presentations to break down just a few facets of how one comes to know truth. First of all, each individual has to embark on the journey, his or herself, right? It can't be thrust upon you any more than any other idea that people quickly shirk once they realize what people are trying to get them to do. So, embedded in that desire to pursue truth, you've already taken the first step. Now, we can easily see how there are those around us that think they know what's going on, when in fact they don't. But they have not honestly embarked on a journey of truth, pursuit of it. They are merely reflecting on what they have learned, identifying with the system in which they learned it, and saying, oh, because of this, then this. Because I learned this at a university, therefore it is real and accurate, and I studied X amount of years, so that validates the process, therefore it is true. But one need only begin to pull at the layers of any of the systems with an open and objective mind, and one begins to see all the pieces crumble around them, right? Whether you study the economic system, big pharma, the education system, right? All of the bigs, okay? As anyone that's on the journey knows, they are riddled like a cancer with lies, deceit, treachery, because that's the whole reason they were set up. It's also important to understand that truth is bigger. It encapsulates, incorporates more than just the five senses. So one has to come to an understanding that this can be done scientifically, as we've discussed before, that there exists the visible and the invisible, and the perfect example is merely the light spectrum, visible light spectrum, versus all the rest of it that is not visible. And scientifically, you say, oh, well, here's what we know we can see, and here's what we know exists, even though we can't see it. But you now must apply that concept, visible and invisible, to things beyond, in addition to merely the light spectrum. And why would it only be limited to one thing, or two things, right? Say the audible frequency, right? You know, you got the dog whistles, you're like, oh, I know the dog can hear it, right? So these are little concrete scientific examples that you can extrapolate from. But there exists much in the invisible, right? Again, you have to be willing, you have to be curious, you have to have an imagination, a desire to pursue this truth, a gut feeling that all is not well. Get a little light on here. And in understanding that there is more to the picture that is much, much larger, it opens one's potentiality, and further it expands one's understanding of what it takes to come to know truth. So many people are fixated in the left side brain, the logical, the rational, scientific, masculine, and they use that as the sole, the primary, and the only filter by which to discern what is accurate. It is a very important part of the brain. But understanding truth, you got to take a step back and grasp the idea that there must be coherence between the hemispheres. There must be coherence among all, we'll call them the brains of the body. The actual brain with its two hemispheres, masculine, feminine, left and right, rational, creative. The heart brain, the gut brain. We'll probably discover a brain between our legs too. And that you can't allow one to supersede the other. Additionally, you have to understand that truth is a constant. We don't have to define it in some metaphysical term, although later you can incorporate the existence of what I call Trog, or what many call God, as being the truth or an expression of it. But truth, simply defined, is that which is, that which was, and that what is happening, what did happen, past events, current events, and what exists. This is kind of the God element, independent of your accepting or acknowledging it, right? So simply put, truth is what is. Alright, we've defined a few things. Let's get down to some brass tacks here. How do you apply some sort of methodology as you're sifting through information? There's one of my other favorite indirect mentors that says many times, there are all these nets, traps, and snares laid out to catch us on this journey. So, as you encounter information, there's some simple questions to kind of ask. One is, who is this person? How can I validate them? What do other people say about them? What do people say about those people? Who are those people? Are they part of an organization? What is that organization? Are they part of a system, a controlling body? Does anything that they are a part of, is it tied to, start looking, who funds it? Where do they get their money? What is the moral rationale behind the money that they have, right? You got Joe the plumber and you got Bill Gates. I'm not going to get in the weeds on this, but you can start pulling things apart based on who is paying them to say that, directly or indirectly. Indirect's going to be harder. Luckily, there's a lot of documentaries out there that have laid a lot of this out. Okay? Who are they? What is their overall message? Is it controlling or empowering? Whatever they are a part of, because odds are they're a part of something, a newspaper, a magazine, a government entity, a religious faction. You know, these experts are experts in something, so they're tied to their industry within a certain group or organization that has a mouthpiece, right? Short of you just listening to me, I'm just, you know, some guy off the street, okay? Who are they? Look into their organization, because ultimately you're going to find what's behind everything and be like, oh, that looks like a crock of shit, even though he is a papered professor. Oh, Imperial College? Let's see, what other studies have they come out with? But is their message empowering or controlling? These are actually two separate things. Are they a part of a controlling entity or body? Okay? If fundamentally the information does not set you free in some capacity, now this does not mean that it will not be painful. Freedom can be very painful. As someone once said, the cost of freedom is eternal vigilance. It is not easy. Okay? That's another clue. Is it too good to be true? Probably is. Does it smell like shit? What do they say? Does it quacks like a duck and looks like a duck and tastes like a duck? It's probably a duck. Are any of the entities that they are associated with, do those entities, organizations, or systems exert any overt or covert control over other people? If so, that's a pretty good sign. Wouldn't trust it. Is it leading people down a path of freedom or control? Slavery is pretty obvious when there's shackles on your feet, but it's less obvious when it's written into, say, legal policy. Okay? Truth will be a constant. Start pulling at the string, that whole house of cards comes down when their information is merely a facade. Okay? If you picture truth as a solid line with no variability to it, flat, infinite, into perpetuity, straight line. That's truth. And your perception could be this big, elongated sine wave. And you know when you encounter truth, right? You know it in that total coherence, not just the left brain. All the brains, both hemispheres of the one in your skull cap. And the more you can get your sine wave, your wave, to match that of truth, you'll be encountering it a lot more and you'll feel it. There's vibration, although one of my other, we'll get into another video, favorite mentors recently. Oh boy, is that a whole video. Dr. Jerry. He likes to differentiate between vibration and oscillation, so I'll try to use the correct nomenclature. But how many times you intersect that line of truth, the closer you are yourself, you can feel it, okay? Even though we are individual units of consciousness and therefore we have a subjective perception, the more we can craft our abilities, visible and invisible, to gauge information and experiences in our environment in an objective manner. It's not to say throw your emotion out the window. It's beautiful technology we have our emotions. But the more you can match your perception to that of objective events, you'll be encountering truth. Now, in regards to trying to present information to someone that has already known, dug in, counter arguments regarding XYZ, although events in 2020 would be the most popular topic. Of course, that was the big splitting, the big bifurcation, or at least when some people lifted their head up and said, I think I smell a rat. Talking about COVID. Should you want to present to someone, first, you must understand, we'll use a metaphor. I love metaphors. Most people out there are a closed door. Someone like myself, I had opened my door, and that fucking breeze of truth blew it wide open. Most people are a closed door. You can assist one in opening their door. If their door is locked, you cannot. They have to make that decision. Now, it may take a long time. They may have to see friends and family perish around them before they realize what the hell's going on. Can't unlock them for them. Can't unlock it for them. But even if the door's closed, which is, again, most people, you can help them open it. So recognize what your battle is. I can't comment directly on my sister and brother-in-law. The doors are firmly shut and close to locked. Something will unlock that. Unfortunately, it usually takes pain to do that. They're unwilling. Oh, how could I forget? I'm driving and it's dark and it's hard to think. Oh shoot, I just forgot again. Oh yeah. Okay. Another telltale sign that you're on the right track. And this broth is so good. And I alluded to it earlier. It's going to hurt. It's going to be work. That's a good indication you're on the right track. There's no fucking shortcuts in nature. There's no shortcuts anywhere. They don't naturally exist. Besides a shortcut, when you're doing something proper like running a race, what does that suggest you did? You cheated. Okay, so there's no shortcuts. There's no easy way around. Same's true with this. Okay, you've got your savants, right? The ones that can pick something up and they got a knack for it. Big deal. It's not a shortcut. They're already primed. Who knows what they did in their past life to allow them to be so good at a piano or whatever it is. Okay? Everything takes time. Now, I do accept that there are accelerants. Go back to a metaphor. Like throwing fertilizer on something that grows. But a tree is going to take as long as it takes for that tree to go from 1 foot to 6 feet to 100 feet, right? There's no tree hack. There's no shortcut in nature. There are accelerants, and conversely, there are decelerants, right? So if there's drought or flood or whatever, it's going to have a harder time. But if there's perfect conditions, it's going to grow at a certain rate because that's all it can do, and it's going to take time. You know, Malcolm Gladwell's, I don't even know if he's good or not, 10,000 hours to be an expert, proficient or perfect or whatever. Everything takes work. So, if it tastes like it's coated in sugar, be careful that what's underneath isn't bullshit. So, you're on the path of truth. You encounter some information. It butts up against your perception, your identity, your paradigm, your ego, which has also been called your epigenetic overlay. It's more Dr. Jared stuff. Okay? It hurts. All right. Now, what you encountered may or may not be the truth, but you certainly encountered something that will cause you to dig a little further. Long story short, because there are no shortcuts, it will take time to discern the truth, and it will take work. What kind of work? And I got that dig a ditch or paint the walls? No. It's personal, internal work. Learning to sit with yourself. You can call it meditation. It doesn't even have to be that. It can be actively thinking. Asking yourself the questions, why do I believe this? Why do I do these things? Where did I get this information? Okay? It can be kind of the research work, diving into things. But also the willingness to admit to oneself that you could have been wrong, and that's okay. The truth is, our identity of who and what we are is not based on 15 years of school that we had. That was just some conditioning to get you to think a certain way. Anyway, okay? It's not who or what you are. You're so much more than that, so much more capable. Why limit yourself to only what you learned from those small handful of people? What was their objective? Well, I was at a university. What's that university's objective? Where'd they get their money? Who founded them? Peel back the layers. Have some fucking curiosity. Killed our imagination. Oh, and this thing I'm recording on is killing it as well. The phone. What a wimpy little electronic device. Alright, we're at 20 minutes. It's good enough. Probably missed some amazing points, but let's do a recap. What is truth? Truth is what was and what is. Independent, regardless of your willingness to accept the actual events, that's what truth is. On a larger scale, it also incorporates the existence of the creative source, because that would explain the point of origin. The path of truth is not easy, it is not short, it will take time, it will take work. Along that path there are many nets, traps, and snares. Okay, even I have fallen for some along the way, but you just keep going. You learn something new, you say, this feels empowering. Who is this person? Where did the information come from? What are they tied to? You start digging into the history of things. This takes time. There's a lot of good books out there. There's a lot of good documentaries. A lot of great podcasts. Even sifting through that shit takes time. Although what I've encountered with Dr. Jerry and even Seth Kisboza lately, I'm getting to the beginning of it all, which is very exciting. I can send you a shortcut, but you know what? There are no shortcuts. If I sent it to you and you hadn't done the rest of the work, you'd be trying to build your roof without having laid the foundation. What's the foundation? Well, that's understanding natural law and how the universe actually operates. And as you discover those mysteries, as you allow your brain to receive information in both the left and the right, the masculine, the feminine, the rational, the creative, the pieces start moving a little, start going together. Different puzzle shows up. Okay? The journey of truth requires one to ask the difficult questions of themselves. I didn't even make that plural. Of oneself and of one's environment and those around them, here, around it, around him or her. Okay? Introspection, outrospection. Coming to understand the principles of the universe, cosmos, as above, so below, as below, so above, as within, so without, vice versa. Okay? There are ways to know truth. But, first and foremost, one must make that decision to embark on that journey. The sooner one does that consciously, the faster you can get going, the easier it'll be to sift out the wheat from the chaff. Okay? And when it comes to trying to present truth to others, over and over and over and over and over again, ultimately the only thing that can do that is love. Otherwise, you have to learn when to cut your losses or hang it up, depending on who that other person is. Someone you care about, you keep doing it until they unlock that door.